This is Bucket Talk, a weekly podcast for people who work in the trades and construction that aren't just trying to survive, but have the ambition and desire to thrive. The opportunity in the trades and construction is absolutely ridiculous right now. So if you're hungry, it's time to eat. We discuss what it takes to rise from the bottom to the top with people who are well on their way and roll up their sleeves every single day.
All right, this episode of Bucket Talk, we're here with Luke McFadden. Luke has the boat, the fishing vessel Southern Girl out of Maryland. Luke, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, I'm fascinated with your content. Not only are you a awesome crab fisherman, but you do a lot of stuff to your boat yourself, from maintenance to just upkeep, painting, scraping, and you are hilarious in what you do. But I'd like to get a little background on how you got into the industry, and what you do on a daily basis. So go as far back as you can.
I've always really liked the water. I've grown up here in Pasadena, Maryland. So I've been in, close proximity to the water pretty much my whole life. My dad, my biological father, he got me into like the outdoors and fishing and everything. I grew up with, my mom and stepdad who were really not into the outdoors and any of that. But, I caught the bug from a young age, just hunting, fishing, being outside. And, I always wanted to be a crabber. I don't know why. Even we didn't even know anybody that was a crabber when I decided I wanted to. I had seen some pictures of watermen. I always really thought it was fascinating, that it was kind of like hunting and fishing, my two favorite things, right? And then being your own boss and all that kind of stuff, early on. I like the industriousness of it, doing it on kind of a commercial scale and all that. And I was 11, bought my first boat. I bought like a little 8-foot rowboat out of the penny saver for $175 from cutting grass and stuff. My grandmother got me a set of Featherlight 5-foot oars for Christmas, and I was off to the races. I actually had to build a little dolly because we didn't live on the water. We lived near it. I had to build a little dolly out of my parents' trash can wheels that would slip over the transom of the boat so I could carry the boat down to the end of the street. And then I cut the neighbor's grass, and then they let me launch the boat. So that's how I got really the grassroots, I guess, of getting into it. And then a little bit later, my parents had a friend that was a crabber, who ended up basically becoming my mentor. His name's CJ. He has a YouTube channel as well called FV Miss Paula. He's on all the platforms. And a little more informational kind of content on crabbing, like a deeper dive into the actual industry. Very interesting. You guys ought to have him on if you have a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started, I got a job working with him, working crew, working in the yard, working on crab pots. I was wanting to do just anything that had to do with it. I was just I was into it, the whole deal, and it didn't matter really what I was getting paid or not or whatever. I just wanted to be involved. And so, from the time I was 12 till 18, I basically worked for him in the summers on and off, learning kind of just by being there. And when I was 18, I had moved out of my parents' house 2 months after I turned 18, and just decided I was going crabbing. I had bought a boat, basically the hull. It was a 32-foot plywood and glass boat. It was really mostly mulch and fiberglass. And I was working in a granite shop making countertops in the wintertime. And I would go work on this boat after work. And I worked on it all winter. I put in a floor, replaced stringers, built a cabin, got the motor running, the whole everything. And then launched the boat. CJ sold me 200 crab pots, kind of on the conditions of pay me back when you can. And it was an absolute disaster. Horrible, total, epic failure for about 5 years. But the first couple years were really just a mess. I lost more money. I was working to have money to go crabbing because I just didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Crabbing is traditionally here a generational kind of occupation. Your dad did it, your grandfather did it. So there's not quite as much barrier to entry typically, And there's also, you just kind of grow up with it, and it's an incredibly complicated business. And, just getting out there and doing it is really hard. So it was, I worked on, I just got up and got after it every day. And basically the definition of insanity, just did the same thing over and over until you get a different result. But, yeah, it took me a good, probably 4 or 5 years, I'd say, to really even just kind of get my feet under me. And then I sold the Widow and I bought the Southern Girl. And then that's kind of when it changed for me, kind of a little bit of mindset, a little bit of everything, where it was like, all right, this is your last chance. All the eggs are in one basket. There's no other options. I kind of changed my mindset as this is your only option. You have no plan B. This is it. You either make this work or there's no option not to make this work. You know what I mean? So I was like, this is what I do, and I'm going to do it till I get it. And, just went after it, and, kind of one thing led to another, and I'm kind of, here I am. So
that's wild. It's actually funny that you say that, because you see some of these motivational guys, the entrepreneurs on all different platforms, and one of the things that they say, which I've never actually heard anybody say it before other than you, is you can't have a plan B. If you have a plan B, then most likely you'll fail.
Exactly. And that's totally how I look at it. I'm not kidding. People ask me what would you do if you weren't crabbing? Or, if you don't want nothing. I've never considered it, because even in the back of your mind, for me, if I consider a plan B or a something, you're never going to truly be 110% committed to plan A,
Yeah, no,
that's not a healthy mentality necessarily. And doesn't work for everybody. But for me, I'm a dumb, hard-headed son of a gun. And, so I need to basically, I say my motto is be too dumb to quit sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. So what kept you going in the first couple of years of, I shouldn't say failure, because, failure to some is just growing and learning, and every scenario has an outcome and you learn from it. So as long as you continue to learn, there is no such thing as failure. But still, it must have been a tough time for you. Probably working 2 jobs at the same time.
Yeah, I was doing whatever I could here and there. I was working at the marina where I tied up at to help with the slip fee. I was doing pretty much anything. And then all through the winter, I would be working as well, doing anything I really could. I used to buy and sell cars and fix anything whatever. But yeah, basically I was working to fund my crabbing habit, but, I don't know. I put really high expectations on myself, but I also, there had been some people that stuck their neck out for me, and, I had seen some people that had kind of believed in me here and there, you know what I mean? And, I didn't want to let myself down. I couldn't let them down. I was just so driven to do it. I was like, I've worked so hard to get here. Every day it was when every day is so hard to get through, it's the next day you're I worked that much harder to get to tomorrow, So it's you can't just give up, and the way I kind of saw it was other people can do it. We're all human, you can do it too. Figure it out. There's a way. Obviously there's a way to make this work, because other people can make this work. You just need to figure it out. You know what I mean?
That's cool. So you essentially fully immersed yourself into the lifestyle. You didn't half-ass it. You wouldn't have learned or gained the resources or the network to help you out. Obviously, from crab pots to boats to engines to help slips, what you name it. You got to have a good network. So that being there 110% every day was the key to the success that you have today. But was there one specific instance that you wanted to just hang it up?
There was a lot of instances. I do remember one time my poor parents, I was having a horrible, horrible time. I mean, I was in a bad, I was young, I was like 18, 19. I didn't know what I was doing. I was hard headed. I was in financial danger, basically, constantly. I was not in a good headspace, just in general. Life was weird at the time. I just remember like being out there and I kept running over my own gear. So you have buoys and I kept running over my own buoys with the boat. And I remember I had run over 6 of my own floats. And every time you run over, you have to jump overboard, swim under the boat and cut it out. And it can take forever. I mean, it could take like an hour. And I used to work by myself. It was not safe,
Yeah.
And I just had enough. I just snapped. I mean, I was mentally broken, emotionally, physically exhausted, broken. And I'm not proud of it at all. But I called my parents on the phone and I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I just basically lost it. I was like, I can't, this isn't going to work. I was so mad. I used to have a real hot temper. And I remember ripping the door off the hinges of the cabin of my boat, smashing the gaff. Everything on the boat went overboard. I was just, I mean, that was rock bottom, man. Like close to it at least. In that time, it was like, I mean, it was absolute, utter, complete failure. I mean, that boat was a disaster. That it was constantly breaking down. That first boat that I had, it sank like 4 times. I mean, it was not only that I was having a hard time crabbing and the steep learning curve and everything else. All my equipment was junk. I was starting from the bottom. My market where you sell crabs was horrible. I had all the bottom of the barrel markets. Guys were stealing crab pots and crabs, and it was like they were all trying to get me to quit. And everything in my life at that time was fighting me. And I was a 18, 19-year-old guy, we're not, that had moved out right after I turned 18. I was just, it was just a weird time in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, and then, the reason I ended up getting rid of the other boat, getting the Southern Girl, was I got caught in a really, really bad storm and basically cracked the boat that I had in half. Like, real bad October storm. The weather here in October gets real sketchy real quick, and it started blowing a big, it was a slick calm day, I remember, and it picked up a real bad nor'easter out of nowhere, and I was in a bad spot for it, and that really scared me good.
Was that the one on Halloween when it started to snow?
No, not here. It was just I don't remember what year it was even, but it was a real bad storm, and my boat actually caught fire in that storm because one of the it had a wet exhaust, so the exhaust gas would go down through some tubes.
Yep.
I had a coupler, and the coupler broke. Actually, the water pump had burned up. The raw water pump or something burned up, so the manifolds didn't get cooled.
Yeah.
And then just the boat getting so beat, it cracked one of the exhaust couplers. So water was coming in the boat. I remember I cut the sleeve off of my sweatshirt and took a hammer and jammed that handle in with the sweatshirt into the hole. And, and then as a result, the exhaust gas was in the wooden motor box, and then that caught fire. That was horrible. It scared me so bad. I mean, it scared me good. How'd
you pull yourself out of that?
We just got in. I mean, I literally had the VHF on 16. And, I wasn't an experienced captain either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had 2 people. One of my best friends on the boat was helping me, and another guy at the time. And, it was genuinely really scary at the time. I wonder now, if I were to be in that situation, what it would feel like, because the boat's different. I have different experience, but I mean, it was definitely not a good situation. And until then, that was definitely the worst situation I had been in. So it was scary for me, very jarring. And that was basically that was the same time frame that I kind of had lost it. I was trying to wrap up that crab season. I was really not in a good spot. And, it was kind of all right, you either need to Like all the signs are here. You either need to hang it up and move on, or you need to, play a big hand and make it work. And so, that's kind of, when I got the boat, everything, my mentality kind of changed, because before, commercial fishing is a lifestyle, crabbing. And, I wasn't in the mindset, like I said, I was an 18, 19-year-old guy, and I was just doing everything. I was like, I wanted to go, out of the boat with my friends and go drink and go, party and do whatever and stay out and whatever. And you can't do that. Like, if you're really going to make it work, it's a lifestyle that you have to commit to. Like, when your friends are down the ocean and on the beach and on vacation, you can't do that. That's not you. If you're a crabber, you have a certain amount of months, you have a time frame to make your whole living. And if, you're not committed to it, you're not married to it, it's just never going to work.
All or nothing.
Yeah, so I kind of made all those switches, and it cost me, man. That was a whole nother. It felt like I started all over. It was like I lost relationships over it, all kinds of stuff, just because it was like, I'm married to this one thing. I was just like one track, just beyond. It was either going to work or not. You know what I mean? There was no option. That was the only option, was to make it work.
So one of the things that resonated with me was you were talking about how you were hot-headed, and now you're a little bit calmer and cooler, a little bit more collected nowadays. And it resonated with me because I felt like I was in the same scenario when I was growing up, and just the different things from, when I was in the Coast Guard fires and just machinery not performing the way you want it to perform, and constant breaking down, and you name it. Same with the automotive industry, just a job not going the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm at the farm. Now I expect things to go bad.
Mm-hmm.
I take a breath, step back, assess it, and then tackle it. And that shift in my mindset as like, why does everything go wrong, to now anticipating it going wrong,
Mm-hmm.
has made it a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Shit's going to break. Shit's going to wear down. Shit's not going to go right. And I've come to accept that. And it's made my life a little bit easier, anticipating the next breakage, or having the right parts on hand, or the tools on hand, or the know-how or knowledge to do things. Do you think that's one of the keys to your success, is being able to step back, look at it with a cooler head, and be able to tackle whatever it is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of realized my first shift in mindset was, I remember I kept breaking. I would get pissed and I'd break these gaffs, like that you use over the rail. And I'm like, you idiot. Like, I remember CJ, kind of the guy that became kind of my mentor, was like, he was like, how many times are you going to do that? He was like, how much are those gaffs? I was like, $40. He was like, how much did you make today crabbing? I was like, -200. He's like, you just made -240, dumbass. Like, he's like, every time you do that, he was like, you're costing yourself more money that you're already not making. He was like, I used to do the same thing. And then I realized, like, it's just one more battle to fight, And then that kind of progressed into like, it's going to suck, and you're just going to have to do it. And you can either fight the problem and yourself, or you can just try to fight the problem. But don't get me wrong. I'm human, right? And, everybody can still have a little bit of hot temper. Like, I still lose my patience with stuff. I can't always step back and, assess the situation and go in and just methodically fix it. Like,
yeah,
a lot of times I can, especially now with social media and everything. It makes that process a lot easier. In some ways, it makes it a whole lot harder in other ways we can talk about later. But, yeah, it's definitely, I tell guys or young guys, I'm like, listen, you can make this a lot harder on yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by throwing a tantrum about it, basically,
So things changed around for you a little bit with the new boat. What were some of the keys to success to getting you out of this slump and into really making money and progressing in your trade to where you are now?
Man, success is sort of, objective, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I guess because I can keep going and the business has grown and whatever you could call it successful, I certainly do not view where I am as like anywhere close to have made it, you know. Um, but I mean, it just kind of, the different mindset, that was the biggest thing. And kind of just wanting to be kind of better myself. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to do better. I wanted to do a little better for myself. I wanted to, I don't know. I didn't want to let anybody down. I didn't want to let myself down, and I had already been through so much hell to kind of get to where I was, it was like, and I just kind of made the decision. It was like, you know what? This is going to work. This is what you do. And you're going to eat, sleep, breathe, succeed and suffer crabbing until it starts going in the right direction,
So you touched a little bit on it, social media. Obviously, I'm very aware of your channel, and if you don't follow him, please do, because it's fun to watch. How did that have a role in where you are today? Was that kind of two separate paths? Did the paths come together and now you got more resources, more help, more visibility? Or because I know you've talked about selling crabs or even getting rid of boats or whatever you had to do. Was that a tool for you and a resource, or was that something completely different that you had to manage?
Well, I mean, I kind of happened into social media sort of by accident at the very first. And then I kind of realized, like, man, this could be a great tool for business. It's all at our disposal. And there was room in the market. There's no other crab guys on the internet. Like, be the biggest fish in the smallest pond is what I tell people. You know what I mean? At least to get a foothold. When I was crabbing, even before social media, just the way the industry's going in my eyes and everything, the goal is to get more money for the crabs you can catch. And the way to do that is to not sell wholesale necessarily, is to sell direct to customer in some capacity. So I had always had that trajectory to where I was always working to, try to get the business to where I could sell direct to customer. And then social media, I kind of was like, well, hey, you could give it a shot. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great tool. You can get it in front of so many people. I really just wanted to sell more crabs, so it just kind of started like, I was like, man, if I could like kind of shift this social media thing to my business, that could be huge.
Yeah.
And so kind of the same gig, I just kind of started easing into more content related to my industry and whatever at first, crabbing and whatever, and treat it like a job, just like I did crabbing. I was like, you got to, grind on it, give it 110, and you're probably not going to make any money, or there's probably not going to be many upsides to it. It's just going to be sort of a thorn in your side with a steep learning curve for a long time. And that was correct. But yeah, I mean, just, treat it like part of the job. It's part of your job now, to make content and whatever. And it's, in the long run, it has served me pretty well so far. And, it actually gave me the ability to switch all to selling direct to customer. So it kind of worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing tool if used properly.
So you touched on it when you were giving a little bit of your background, how crabbing is generational. And I've seen that from tuna fishing, lobster fishing, you name it. Anything in the fisheries industry, it goes back a long ways within families. Now, you had said you essentially you essentially just like went headfirst into the industry and learned as much as you can. Could somebody else do that? Like, if I was interested in becoming a crabber, were you just lucky, or is this a way that, hey, you know what? I want to be a crabber. How do I go about doing it? I'm going to go work at the boatyard. I'm going to start picking up as a deckhand for one of these boats, or, rebuilding crab pots. Like, is that the way to go? Would you recommend this industry?
I mean, it's hard to say. In the industry, I just wrapped up my 9th year crab, and even 9 years ago, it was such a different industry.
Yeah.
And I only know what I've seen and observed and done. But from what I can see, the industry is so much harder now even to get into than when it was. Just the barrier to entry financially is, I mean, unbelievably more than it was before. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like,
yeah. So I would assume, obviously, because everything has exploded in price, that boat prices have gone up, fuel prices have gone up.
yeah,
I'm sure gear is expensive now. And then there's shit that like people wouldn't even think of, from safety equipment, EPIRBs, life rafts, fucking all that shit.
yeah.
It's gotta be expensive.
Help is one of the hardest. Help is one of the number one things that's cutting our industry, thinning the herd in our industry right now.
Really, nobody wants to do it.
No, it's just work. People just, it's a different. I think it's a little different mentality. People just don't want to do that kind of work. And I can't necessarily blame them.
Yeah.
It's hard work. And it's seasonal.
Yeah.
But I mean, now just the price of equipment, from 4 years ago to now, it has literally doubled. Operating cost is double what it was. I mean, it costs me $1,000 a day just to leave the dock now.
Wow.
Of course, I run a 3-man crew, and I pay them, as well as I can. But it's a lot of expense. We're in an industry that's heavily, dependent on commodity, basically. You know what I mean? Diesel fuel, metal to build crab pots and gear and boat and, all that kind of stuff. So when the price of everything goes up, our price goes way up too. And it gets to a point where you can only get so much for a crab, I mean, people are only going to pay so much for a crab. And if you're selling wholesale, you're at the market, you're at the mercy of the market. We're like farmers. We don't set the price for our own product necessarily.
Yeah.
I have a little more control because I sell direct to customer. But if you're selling to pick and house or wholesale or middleman, you get told what you're going to get paid when you hit the dock. And so with the rising price of, overhead and the uncertainties in the industry, and a lot of regulation that they've imposed on us in the last couple of years, man, I would never say I don't recommend it. But it would be very hard. And I would suggest, if you want to, go get a job on a boat, working crew, and treat it like it's your business.
Yep.
Care about it like it's your business, like you have stock in the success of the business, because that's the only way you're even going to get close to a taste of what it would be like to be your own captain. Because I tell you what, I worked crew for a lot of years. And it's not even the same job. It's not even close to the same job as being a captain. The only similarity is that you're standing on the same boat. It's a different mindset. It's a different work ethic. It's a different you got to wear 15 hats when you're the captain, and you deal with a million different things, and you will never truly understand it until you're in that position. But the closest you could get is to be really, basically become that guy's right-hand man, do all the extra, you know what I mean? Because that's being a captain. That's what it's going to be like when you're a captain. I got all of March and into April, all I do is write checks. You know what I mean? Like, we spend $20,000 just to get gear overboard.
Yeah.
And I'm paying guys, I'm paying for fuel, I'm paying to get the boat hauled, I'm doing work to everything, and you're not getting I'm not making any money doing that. I'm just spending it. So, if you could become somebody's right-hand man, there's a good chance nowadays, if you found a guy, he's probably going to let you run the boat. He probably wants to go home. It's a hard life. It's hard on you. And most guys I know, they're all piss and vinegar when they're my age. But dude, the average age of a commercial license holder in Maryland is 56. I'm 27. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity. It's actually kind of a good way if you want to get into it. There's sort of an opportunity right now where a lot of these guys, the average age is really getting up there, and they're, they've lived hard lives being grabbers, So a lot of guys I know are looking for people to hire on that are going to be good help, reliable, dependable, willing to learn. And man, I could name a bunch of guys I'm sure would, if you really stuck it out, would be willing to, give you more opportunity, than even I had when I was working crew.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good insight. Obviously tough life. Early mornings, late evenings, always on the boat, always thinking about it. But outside of that, what is one of like your best successful moments or your happiest moment crabbing? Big haul. I don't know. I mean, you probably have the example, but something that you were like, fuck yeah. Like I'm feeling good about this.
I had a few big days, a few years ago when I was kind of starting to get a little more of the crabbing figured out, like the actual kind of figuring out crabs a little bit and being a little more strategic about where you're crabbing and how and this and that. I definitely had some pretty big days, that I felt pretty good about it.
You're smiling about it.
Yeah. It's different now because, then I was selling to wholesale markets. Yeah. And so like if I had big days, I was just pumped because all I did was I just drove the truck there, dropped them off and got a check. Yeah. Now I have big days and it's cool to have big days, but now I see, 30 bushel go on the truck, 40 bushel go on the truck on a really good day. And I think, oh man, now that's half the battle now. And how am I going to sell them? I hope I have a market for 40 bushel crabs. So unfortunately that, just the, euphoria of having a big day now is a little different, but there was definitely some days where I was feeling good about it, before. And it's always cool, man. It's a great feeling to be the underdog and to finally feel like you're, having days that are, worthy of,
Yeah, I mean, hauling pots full of crabs up is probably a good feeling.
I'll tell you what, man, there ain't no feeling like breaking a trap over that rail that's just, man, big, full, nice, big crabs, especially when it's something like, you went where you thought they were going to be and it worked. They showed up or, whatever. I mean, it happens like chess, they're migratory animals. And, you always want to be, I always say you want to be where they're at, where they're going to be and where they want to be, You're always kind of playing this game. And when it works out, boy, is it ever awesome. I still like, man, I love bailing traps over the rail, just full of nice, big, pretty clean traps full of nice, big, pretty crabs. Like
there you go.
That is really no better feeling than that.
So you gone from a one-man backyard operation to a pretty substantial business, 3 crew. That's awesome. Where do you think you're going to go in the future? Do you have any plans to expand? This is the way it is.
I'd like to expand. I always kind of have a little bit of a vision of where I want to go or what I want to do. And then I always kind of try to obtain it in steps. You know what I mean? Kind of set your eyes on the next piece of your puzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's the next piece?
For me, I would really like to do 2 things. I really like to kind of develop something more outside of crabbing that's like that it works alongside crabbing, kind of a brand that kind of or something like that kind of works with the social media end that also, like I said, works alongside the crabbing. But also in terms of the crabbing, I'd like to really expand my sales of crabs. I bought a little lot in town, actually the next town over, a few years ago, and that's when I made the jump to selling all my own crabs. So I purchased a little plot of land, and then I developed it a little bit, and then I put I got like a big refrigerated trailer, and so now, I set up a roadside stand, and I just take my roadside stand up there, set it up, and sell out of the back of a trailer, which works great. But I know my strengths and weaknesses, not all of them, obviously, but I know some of them, and where I need help is in the sales side, just because it takes so much time, and, time's the most valuable thing you have. And there's a lot of things now with the social media that I can't designate to other people. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've been doing it all myself, which has honestly been completely burning me out. And then you just kind of start to fall short on all areas. So really where I'd like to go is figure out something better for my crab sales. And like I said, also develop something alongside of crabbing outside that's separate from crabbing.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be a little daunting of a task. What's the lifespan of a crab, or the sales time of a crab once it's out of the pot and then once it goes to the customer? How much time do you have?
It all depends on how the crab's handled and basically what time of year it is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So crabs you're catching at a little colder water and it's a little cooler outside, they're going to live a lot better or a lot hardier. Summertime, I'm talking, June, July, August, dude, those are the dog days. Everything fights you. Crabs do not live well out of water when it's hot. But I would say if you're looking for an average, I'd say 5 days out of water,
So
which
have
is
you
a
ever-
decent shelf life.
yeah.
But, you got to consider I'm also selling just live seafood to people, direct to people. So they're just all factors to consider.
No, I know. I was thinking like wholesale. It's probably easy because you load them up. Now it's their problem, right? But
exactly.
Now you're doing it yourself. Yeah, you can get better prices, but on the flip side, if you don't sell out,
Yeah.
then it's kind of like, well, did I just waste all my time? Essentially parting everything out, right?
Yeah.
Have you looked at like shipping or anything along those lines that could get you more distribution into a greater area versus that local niche that you have?
Yeah, so I do actually offer shipping all over the country.
Nice.
I partner with a restaurant here in town called Jimmy's Famous Seafood. They're really good friends of mine. It's a pretty big restaurant. They have a very big following of their own and everything. But they actually do ship crabs, so you can order them through a link that I have, and then I work with them to get my actual crabs to them, and they steam them and then cool them down, ice them, pack them, and ship them same day.
Oh, nice.
So I do offer shipping. It's also a very niche product.
Yeah.
Most of the people that order from me are people in other states that are from Maryland that are familiar with crabs.
Yeah.
I've also done a lot of work to kind of share crabs and how to eat them and this and that with everybody and make it really user friendly and easy so that anybody can try crabs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also have a lot of people that just are fans. They watch and then they want to order crabs. It's kind of like the ultimate deliverable. I do a lot of live streaming, so I live stream us crabbing.
Oh
and
yeah.
then I link in the live, like in real time. I have a link in the live stream. You can click and actually get those crabs.
That's cool. That's
yeah.
a unique experience. So
it's kind of cool.
It's like farm to table style, if you will.
Exactly. A lot of kind of what I try to promote locally here within the industry is, just advocating kind of for my industry and the people in it, and having a relationship with the people that catch your food and know where it comes from. We live in a world where there's a lot of separation between your food and knowing the origin of it. And people want to know
where
cool. Where it comes from. So
that's cool. So outside of crabbing, how do you unwind? What kind of hobbies do you have, or is it just all crabbing all the time?
I mean, in crab season, it's all crabs all the time right now. We start getting ready in March, and usually I quit at the end of October. This year I quit a little early. I had a lot of stuff going on. Unwinding is not something I'm good at. I'm more of a worker than a relaxer.
Yeah.
I like feeling like I'm getting stuff done, but I love hunting. I love to fish. Unfortunately, most of the time during fishing season, I'm working.
Yeah.
But I love to hunt. So I do that any chance I can. I love building stuff. I love creating stuff. So I like, I build furniture. I actually used to carve a lot of duck decoys.
Yep.
I did a lot of ceramic sculpture actually as well.
That's cool.
In the wintertime when you're shacked up, but I like to build stuff, build whatever, you name it, just any kind of DIY, building anything I can think of. But yeah, I really like to hunt too.
So
I like learning stuff, buying and selling trucks and trailers, anything with a motor, dirt, just that's kind of my hobby, honestly. It always kind of has been. Tinkering with stuff and projects, whatever.
Well, hell yeah. So this was awesome having you on. I always love talking about our trades on the water. it's got a special place in my heart, and I miss the ocean every day. Spent like 40 years on the ocean, just
Yeah.
through the military and what have you. So it's cool. But it's the end of the podcast. I want to give you an opportunity to plug where you are. Like, anybody wants to get some information, they can get it from you. Anybody wants to buy crabs or whatever, let them have it.
Yeah. So, you can find me on all the social medias. TikTok is my kind of where I started. You can either search my name, Luke McFadden, but the handle is at FV Southern Girl, which is Fishing Vessel Southern Girl. YouTube, Luke McFadden. I'm really giving YouTube hell right now. I have Facebook, which is my name. Also, my business page where I post all my reels is FV Southern Girl, and Bodkin Point Seafood. It's all the same page. There's a lot of fake pages right now of me on Facebook, so look for the blue checks or my business page. And Instagram, I have Instagram as well. So that's Luke _ MCFAD McFadden. My last name's McFadden. So TikTok, FV Southern Girl, Facebook, Bodkin Point Seafood, YouTube, Luke McFadden, and Instagram, Luke McFadden. You could search Luke McFadden for Instagram too.
Well,
and I do say, man, you guys send me stuff all the time, like the boots and I actually just got a jacket in the mail, and the pants and the shorts. And I tell you what, I'm not kidding. Those are by far my favorite work clothes. And everybody, at the very, very beginning, years ago, when you guys started sending me stuff, I was like skeptical. But I tell you what, those things are like proven, and I wear them constantly, all the time. If you look at my videos, I'm like, I have a brown pair of pants and I have a tan pair of shorts. And dude, I can genuinely say they're Luke proof. Like, I break everything, and those are really, really good. And I wear the lace up boots, and you guys also just sent me a set of the slip on boots I'm going to start wearing this winter. But hey, if you ever need to offload more of those pants, man, you're the guy. Those those are genuinely really good products.
Well, I appreciate the plug there. It's a great company to be a part of, and we're glad we can outfit the trades and construction industries, and glad to hear you're happy with it.
Yeah, man. And your marketing is top notch. You guys do a great job.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast. This was, again, awesome. I enjoy watching your videos. So, if we can get your message out there, it's definitely worth the content and the time spent. You're inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me on. It was really a pleasure.
And as a special thanks to our loyal listeners, we're giving $10 off your next purchase of $60 or more at BRUNTWorkwear.com. Use discount code BucketTalk10. That's BucketTalk10.